Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Lucas Frankel alongside Mike Lucas. It is August. Mike, I guess he went on some weightlifting extravaganza because it's sun's out, guns out for him today. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, where's the professionalism?
Professionalism goes out the window when your AC unit breaks while you're on vacation. You come back and it's 96 degrees in your apartment. I think it all goes out the window because if I put on something a little more professional, I'd be sweating through everything, and I'm already sweating through this. So sorry about the lack of sleeves. It is 94 degrees in my apartment. I've had maintenance guys coming in and out all morning trying to fix it. I did not sleep here last night. I slept at a friend's house, and it is hot in Texas. It is hotter inside my apartment, and I don't think I've ever been so excited to go to work later this afternoon than I am today because it is nice and cool in the KAG studio.
Well, you look great, and I'm sure our viewership numbers will go through the roof now that everyone gets to
I do look tan. I just got back from Hawaii. I look kind of tan, don't I?
All right, enough flexing. That's enough. So the New York Yankees, after a very tumultuous first April, May, June, July, 4 months of the season. Granted, they played the Orioles and they played the Mariners. The Marlins. They have a series coming up here with the Mariners. Seem to be like, I don't want to say it, but they seem to be getting back on track here a little bit. They're 5-1 in their past 6 games. Anthony Rizzo is the greatest Yankees player I've seen since Derek Jeter. In his 6 games with the Yankees, he's hitting .400 with 3 homers, 6 RBI. He set an RBI, I believe, in every single game he's played. He has 6 RBI. First Yankee ever with 6 RBIs in his first 6 games for the team. They're just 1 game back of the A's in the loss column for the second wild card. They're just 4 back of the Red Sox. Mike, man, this team is – I can't believe it, but after being fully out, and I'm fully in now. It's a complete 180. I can't believe it. It's been a complete roller coaster of emotions, but here we are, and I'm back.
Yeah, this has been a really weird Yankee season because they have had some amazing highs and some of the worst lows I think either of us can ever remember being Yankee fans. And when they made the Gallo trade, I was thinking, why? The last thing the Yankees need is another guy who strikes out 200 times a season and can mash home runs. But it's worked so far.
Not for Gallo, though. Gallo gets wait for it. Gallo is 2 for 23. He's hitting .087, has not hit a single home run, and has not driven in a single run yet in 6 games. He has been,
He's been horrible.
But I think his presence is it's good. At least when he's out there, you're not running out a Ryan Lamar or a Brett Gardner. It's someone who has legitimate credibility and a track record of success, not a scrub who doesn't belong in the major leagues.
Yeah,
Gallo at least has he can
get those numbers. Those are not numbers that say he's anything more than a scrub, but it was the first domino to fall, which then led to them getting Anthony Rizzo. And Rizzo is not only a championship player, he won one with the Cubs, he's an all-time locker room guy. And sometimes on teams that are so up and down throughout the season where they can't get anything rolling consistently, they can't put together 5-6 game stretches where they look like one of the better teams in the league, having a guy come in who may not have been there all season but can demand that locker room presence from day one, like it Anthony Rizzo could be the difference between this team being a teetering, maybe in the playoffs, maybe not in the playoffs, to a team that can actually contend not only for a wild card spot, but for the division. 4 games is not a giant lead, and
that's of the Red Sox. That's
what I'm saying. I know the Rays are even further ahead, but you go 1 peg at a time. They're 1 game back of whoever for the second wild card spot. They're 4 games back for the Sox for the first wild card spot. These are not insurmountable numbers to climb, and the Rays, they just traded everyone away. I don't know how it makes sense that they continue to win games without their best players, but would I be shocked to see them come back down to earth at some point? Yeah, actually I would, because of the Rays. They never lose.
So I've had this conversation with people in my office. What the Rays are doing and what they've done here of late in the last couple of years especially, it is exponentially more impressive than anything that Billy Beane did with A's. I will die on this hill. Yeah. Moneyball is the single most falsely conceived movie that you could ever watch. They make this whole movie about how Scott Hatterberg was the driving force behind this little engine that could A's team. That couldn't be further from the truth. They had 3 borderline Hall of Famers in that rotation with Barry Zito, Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder. They had Jason Giambi, Eric Chavez, Miguel Tejada, Jermaine Jai. They were loaded from top to bottom, and the whole movie was based on Scott Hatterberg being some cast off, hit a walk off. Like, give me a break. That movie is such a farce. I can't believe it. But what the Rays are doing with this team, trading away Blake Snell, losing Tyler Glasnow for Tommy John surgery, not re-signing Charlie Morton, trading away Rich Hill, trading away, Diego Castillo, their starting shortstop, Willie Adames. I mean, they just have shuffled players out of that team it's crazy. Every time you look up, they're getting new players, but they've still managed to win games. Like they're spending like no money. They're winning with players like Austin Meadows and Yanni Diaz and Randy Arozarena and Brandon Lau. I mean, they just got these guys who, when they put on that Rays uniform, it's like they get superhuman powers. It's unbelievable. I can't believe the freaking Rays are playing this good when they've lost the amount of talent they have. They must have the most unbelievable talent evaluation that in the history of the game, because they spend no money and they got this unbelievable team that's competing for the playoffs year in and year out. It is 300,000 times more remarkable than anything the A's did under Billy Beane. And there's no argument for the A's. I'm telling you, most overrated story maybe ever.
They did win 22 games in a row, which I believe is still the record. So there is some merit to it. But yeah, what the Rays are doing now is insane. I thought when they reached the World Series last year, that was the peak. That was, hey, shortened season, new guys did. Like, that was how high this team could go. It was the perfect mix of a shortened season, guys not playing, opting in and out, COVID, no home field advantage. You got 100 reasons that everything felt perfectly for the Rays to reach the World Series. They lost. And in my head, I'm like, okay, that was a cute little story, but the Rays are now going to go away. But it turns out, as long as Kevin Cash is there, as long as whoever their GM is and their talent evaluators are, the Rays are going to be a freaking threat in the AL East and the entire American League for years to come.
So like, I remember when Joe Madden was the GM, was the manager, and Andrew Friedman, who's now with the Dodgers, was their GM. I was thinking, all right, now that those guys are gone, they're going to like revert back to like being the Rays. But they haven't. They got a new GM. I don't even know. Their GM was Chaim Bloom, who's now with the Red Sox. They lost him. It was Joe Madden. They lost him. They bring in Kevin Cash, and I don't even know who's running that team anymore. But they haven't stopped. So yeah. So that notion that you just said is completely wrong. You're completely wrong and completely off.
But you can't strike lightning 3 times in a row.
Well, they seem to have.
They've done it twice. They've done it twice. I just can't imagine they do it 3 times in a row. Maybe it is the talent evaluators, because they, every time they have a high draft pick, like Wander Franco, I believe, was the first overall pick in the draft.
And he's not even playing good.
Yeah, but it seems like they've hit a future star with him. Every time they have a guy who comes up, it's hit or miss in the rest of the league, whether a guy comes up and plays well and can stick around. Everyone the Rays bring up is filthy. And whether or not they play great from the get-go, like I remember last year talking to you in the playoffs, I hadn't heard of a single guy out of their bullpen, and they all threw 99 with nasty movement. I'd never heard of a single one of their guys, and the Yankees couldn't touch any of them. So whatever they're doing, it's working, and that is, would you say the Rays are the best kept secret in sports right now with what the fact they're doing and how they're doing and how they're keeping this winning consistency up despite all the moving pieces? And not only moving pieces, they're trading away the better players. It's not like they're trading in and bolstering their roster. Like, they're giving guys away for prospects in the future that they hopefully can continue to wheel with.
I think that you thought Moneyball was a good movie. What the Rays are doing would win the Academy Award for Best Picture like 5 years in a row. That's how unbelievable this story is. I am telling you, it is absurd. They don't sign anybody. I thought when they traded Blake Snell, I crossed them off. I crossed them off my list as a team that could legitimately compete in Major League Baseball. They were off my list. And if you would have told me that they would have only had Tyler Glasnow for like 2 or 3 months of the season, I would have been like, okay, they'll probably win like 70 games. But here they are with one of the best records in baseball, and it is absolutely shocking. But this is really a gut check time for the Yankees, since this COVID stuff never seems to end. I blame the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And now Garrett Cole and Jordan Montgomery are both on the COVID IL, out for at least another week plus. Domingo Germán is out with a shoulder impingement. And you know what's crazy about this Yankee season? So after Corey Kluber pitched his no-hitter, his next start, he left after 3 innings. We have not seen him since. Domingo Germán carried a no-hitter into the 8th inning against the Red Sox. In his next start, left after 4 innings. And who knows if we'll see him again this season. It's crazy, and I heard Michael Kay make this point, is you push these starters, like, a little bit further than they're like used to being pushed, and then they just crack. And I don't know if like, can you really tell me that if the Yankees would have lifted Corey Kluber after 7 innings and he would never have gotten hurt, or if they would have just lifted Domingo Germán after 6 or 7 innings instead of pitching him into the 8th inning, then he would still be healthy? I mean, I just can't believe that and it's not like Corey Kluber, I believe, threw like 108 pitches. It wasn't like he threw 150. I mean, it's just, you can't tell me that like the stroke of luck is that bad that you push a guy one time and they break. There's no way that can't be.
Well, it's like you compare to other sports. Like, let's say Derrick Henry gets 50 carries in a game. It's not like he's just dead afterwards. Or LeBron James plays, or Giannis plays 47 minutes in a finals game, or Durant plays all 48 minutes in a game 7. Like, they can be tired, but it's not like their body breaks. In baseball, it does seem like if a guy goes an extra inning or throws one pitch more than he's supposed to, his arm falls off. And I don't know if it's just the stress of the motion that is required to throw a baseball that hard, or it's whatever. It does seem to be more fluky and more consistent, where stretching yourself too thin in baseball leads to more negative effects than otherwise.
So we'll see what happens here over this next little stretch here. But huge 4-game series. I can't believe it. Huge 4-game series for the Mariners. The Yankee starters right now are Nestor Cortez, Luis Gil, and Andrew Heaney. I mean, they are really like, and it's going to be like a bullpen game on Friday. I don't know what they're going to do here to try to like just get these outs and stay afloat until they get Cole Montgomery back, because they were already running pretty thin in the rotation, and it's about to get pretty ugly. But after Cole Montgomery did go on the IL, the offense scored 23 runs in 2 games. So and before that, they just couldn't. I mean, they were just really, really struggling doing anything offensively. So maybe that was the kick in the butt they needed here, because if they score runs, I mean, then obviously that makes up for bad pitching, and they could just keep that up here for the next like week or so and hold down the fort until they get those 2 guys back. Then we'll see. Hopefully, we're still in good shape. But huge 4-game series here, starting with the Mariners, who are right in the thick of the playoff race, and every game is like Game 7 of the World Series. I'm like freaking out against the freaking Orioles because those games came down to the wire, and man, very, 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 very stressful times here for the Yankees, because I don't know. I do feel like if we could just get into the tournament, and things might break our way, but that's just me being irrational fan, because at the grand scheme of things, it seems probably not winning the World Series, but we'll see. Who knows? Yeah. NBA free agency, not as wild as years past. The Nets did do a couple things. They signed Patty Mills to a 2-year, $12 million deal. They re-signed Blake Griffin. They lost Jeff Green. They traded Landry Shamet to the Suns. They traded Spencer Dinwiddie to the Wizards. Mike, obviously they drafted Cam Thomas, Daron Sharp, Marcus Zagorowski, their 3 most notable draft picks. When you look at this Nets NBA offseason, are you happy? Are you sad? Are you mad? What are your thoughts about what this team has done so far?
I actually I'm really happy with what the Nets have done. I think they've played this offseason, I don't want to say flawlessly, but pretty close to brilliant. Patty Mills is the perfect backup point guard. He can space the floor. He's got playoff experience. He's tough. He can set up an offense, and he can spot up and shoot. God forbid Kyrie goes down again. They have a legitimate point guard who can come in and be a solid backup, run the show, and you don't have to run your entire offense through Kevin Durant for 48 minutes. Also, with his veteran presence and championship experience, I think those things can't be overstated enough with a team that really hasn't won anything collectively. I mean, KD has his 2 rings, but outside of that, they don't really have much playoff success on their resume. They re-signed Blake Griffin to the veteran minimum. Blake Griffin, after what we saw in Milwaukee series, should be getting $5-6 million somewhere. He's signed for the veteran minimum with the Nets, which makes me think that was maybe part of the wink, wink, you come here, re-sign deal. And maybe it just means he's hoping to win a championship, and he's willing to play for less. Same with Mills. Mills probably could have gotten more money elsewhere, but 2 for 12 is brilliant. I love the draft pick of Cam Thomas. I saw him live twice last season when they played A&M. The dude can score. Can't do much else, but how nice would it have been to have a guy come off the bench last year in the playoffs that could at least create his own shot? After Kyrie and James Harden went down, they didn't have that. Now they have him off the bench. Zagorowski, I don't know much about, besides he was the best player on a Creighton team that was decent last year. And Daron Sharp was a top 15 recruit coming out of high school. He never fully lived up to his potential at UNC, but he's a guy that you look at size, strength, ability, at least on paper, and he has the potential to turn into a pretty good player. The one thing I'm still a little hesitant about it is the front court depth, especially at center. Like, that means Claxton and Blake have to play a ton of minutes.
Well, I think that's where Sharp comes in, though. He can fill that void a little bit. So you have
Yeah.
Blake, you have Claxton, you have Sharp, and your fourth guy would be DeAndre Jordan, who I don't know. I wish that like Kyrie and KD would just get into his head and be like, hey, just retire, man. Like it's been a great run. Because even like you saw the signs last year. Steve Nash was like, I'm not playing him. I'm just not playing him. He didn't play a single minute in the playoffs. Even when the Nets were up by like 30 in game 4 of the first round series against the Celtics, he couldn't even see action. He did not see a second of action in the whole playoffs. I mean, how much more
Here's what I was getting at. The one thing I wish they could have pulled off was in the Spencer Dinwiddie sign and trade with the Wizards. They could have got Thomas Bryant back in return. That would have been the only thing that would make this go from an A- offseason to an A+. But I think Sean Marks has played it brilliantly. And did you listen to Bill Simmons' podcast with Kevin O'Connor?
And hearing how much they raved about it, I was like, I mean, it made me feel better, but like, I was like, really? You like, I mean, obviously, like, if they would have had Patty Mills to facilitate the offense without Harden, I think that they would have easily. I think they would have beaten the Bucks just based on that having a guy that could like run, basically.
Well, I don't know. Simmons said the Nets now have the best bench in the NBA. I don't know if I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that seems like a major stretch.
I do too, but it's a solid bench. And when you have a big three, it's hard to fill out a full bench. And the Nets do legitimately have 5 or 6 guys who can play, whether or not to what level we'll see, and how many guys can play in a postseason series is still undetermined. But they have a bench, and I do think they've handled the whole situation well. And Sean Marks continues to just kind of play chess when everyone else is playing checkers, and I love it.
So the other big, probably the biggest story of NBA free agency is the Lakers. They got Russell Westbrook. They signed Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, former net great Wayne Ellington, Kent Bazemore, Kendrick Nunn, and Malik Monk. My take on Westbrook is this is a guy that it's the best analogy that I thought of and that I've heard is that he's basically a dude that is like in Major League Baseball that will go out there, a starting pitcher, and give you 7 or 8 innings every single time out, even on a Tuesday in July against the Tigers. He will go out there, he will eat innings, and he will save your bullpen for when games actually matter. And I feel like with LeBron aging and AD being unreliable, that's like a dude that could just be the driving force of a team for a good portion of the season and be that, they could just put so much onus and just like, hey, Russ, do everything. And he'll be like, yep, I want to do everything. And I feel like that fits perfectly with what they would like, and LeBron and AD especially would like. As for all those other signings, I mean, they seem really old. I don't know. I don't know whether to be like extremely fearful of this team or whether I should be like, wow, they're really dumb. They just got this really old team that has no chance of winning a title. I mean, where do you stand on what the hell they've done?
Well, I think the Lakers are building each team on a one-season basis because LeBron at his age, AD with his injury history, if you build too much for the future, you're not maximizing their chance to win now. And with those two on your team healthy, they'll have a chance to win the championship every single year. I think what you said about Westbrook is spot on. It's going to give LeBron a chance to coach through the regular season. It gives them insurance in case AD misses a few games. It gives them insurance in case LeBron gets hurt again, where they won't fall 5 spots in the playoff seedings to have to, barely sneak into the playoffs and then end up playing Phoenix, the eventual Western Conference champion, in the first round, because Westbrook has shown time and time again that any night he can be the best player on the floor. And he carried OKC to the playoffs a few times. He virtually carried Washington to the playoffs with the help of Bradley Beal, but he was the driving force behind what Washington did. I still don't think they have enough shooting. And LeBron has thrived in the past with shooters around him, so the paint is open. But LeBron also can't drive at the same efficiency he once did. So maybe he realizes, hey, I got to be more of a shooter, and I'll let Westbrook, combine Russ and Westbrook, and I'll let Russ kind of take the show. It also gives him a secondary ball handler to alleviate some of that pressure off LeBron. So in the regular season, I think it's a brilliant move. Now, come postseason time, are we going to see Russell Westbrook or Russell Westbrick, where he decides to take 50 shots and take the ball out of LeBron's hands? I hope at this point of his career, at 32 years old, he'll understand that, hey, when push comes to shove, LeBron is still LeBron, AD is still AD, I'm the third fiddle. Let me find ways to help my team win, even if that doesn't involve shooting the ball or running the offense, which we saw him do for the second half of the season in Houston. I mean, do you remember how well he played off the ball with James Harden? I mean, I know Harden didn't like playing with him necessarily, but
honestly, like my memories of Russell Westbrook with the Rockets, I mean, I basically remember nothing. I mean, I remember him obviously like winning MVPs with the Thunder. I remember him like basically in the second half of that season with Washington, single-handedly carrying that team to the playoffs. I mean, he was it was literally triple double every single night. Him with the Rockets. I mean, I know that team like flamed out.
It started horribly, and the second half of the season, he just said, "All right, it's James Harden's team. I'm going to be a slasher, a cutter," and was really effective. I think he made second or third team All NBA that year, and it was the first time that he had played off the ball predominantly, and he hated it. And he said it was not how he likes to play. Him and Harden did not get along in that sense, but he was really effective in that role. And I'm curious to see how he plays with LeBron, because he's not a shooter. He can't. Russell Westbrook is not a spot-up shooter. He's a very poor three-point shooter. If they play a big and put Davis at the 4 and LeBron at the 3, no matter who else you put out there, you have virtually 4 non-shooters. And in today's day and age of basketball, we haven't seen that work against these teams that chuck up 53s a game. It's proven that it is not efficient enough to ball to beat some of these teams that shoot so efficiently from 3.
So, in your mind, are the Lakers better or worse than they were when they won their NBA title?
It depends on health. If LeBron and
wait, that's the thing though. The team last year, they were going to win the title until AD got hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least they would have gone to the finals. Who knows if the Nets are healthy.
Wholeheartedly agree. So, are they better? Yeah, I think Westbrook's better than anyone they had the year they won the title as a third option. And I think Malik Monk is a really good signing. I think Nunn's a nice addition, but it comes down to, can LeBron and AD be healthy in the playoffs? And 2 years ago, they won the championship. This year, they were the favorites to win it all till they got hurt. They get hurt, and they couldn't beat the Suns. So, yeah, I think they're better on paper, but I also think it doesn't matter what paper says unless they're healthy.
So the team I thought that did the best in free agency is the Chicago Bulls, who are currently plus 8,000 to win the NBA title. I don't think they're going to win it, but I think they're significantly improved after they got Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan. I think what they're doing in Chicago is really, really smart. I think Lonzo and LaVine is going to be a potentially lethal combination. You add Vucevic to that squad as well. I mean, I think they're going to be a really, really, I think they're a top 5 team in the East, easy.
I think they can score a lot of points. I'm not sure they can stop. I'm not sure they can stop anyone when it matters. And in the postseason, we've seen how important defense is, because how much tougher it is to create open shots. The one concern I have offensively with the Bulls is they almost have too many guys that do the same thing. Now, DeRozan's a better playmaker than he gets credit for.
No. Lonzo's a facilitator. LaVine's the high flyer. DeRozan's like the outside shooter.
DeRozan's not an outside shooter, though. Look at his numbers. Before you look it up, what do you think DeRozan shot from 3 over the last 5 years?
Probably 33%.
Look it up. And while you're doing that, I'll go over the rest of the team. You got Vucevic, who in theory should have meshed perfectly with LaVine last season. And except when they made that trade, the Bulls got worse offensively with
25%.
He's a very efficient offensive scorer. He's just not a 3-point shooter. So they have a lot of guys who like to have the ball relatively close to the basket. Lonzo might be their best shooter now. You got Patrick Williams, who I think has a chance to be really good as a 3-and-D guy. Markkanen can space the floor, but he plays no defense whatsoever. Can you play him alongside Vucevic? You have the 2 worst defensive bigs maybe in the league with no real rebounding. They signed Alex Caruso, so I think they have a lot of pieces. I think it's going to come down to Billy Donovan. Can he put the right pieces in the right situations to succeed? And I think the Bulls have a high ceiling. I think they also have a really low floor. Like, it wouldn't shock me if the Bulls weren't particularly great this year, but it also wouldn't shock me if they're, at a 5-4, 3 seed in the East. So I think they can vary that much, and it depends on. In the regular season, no one plays defense. We're just going to put up 130 a game and outscore you. So I do love the Lonzo Ball signing, though. I think that is one of the best signings. And him and Caruso defensively, my guy AC, have a chance to terrorize opposing backcourts, because both of those guys will pick you up full court and just harass you nonstop.
Last team we'll hit on here is the Knicks. They re-signed Randall today, 4 years, $117 million. I'll tell you right now, it was a colossal mistake. I know he was the complete zero in the playoffs for that team against the Hawks after like a really, really strong regular season. But to invest that much in Randall, I don't think he's a guy. I mean, it's the way the NBA is. I guess as of now is that like you see a dude that plays like the way he did during the regular season, you feel like you gotta pay him and pay him $30 million a year. That's great. Kemba Walker. I mean, Knicks fans are sort of acting like he's coming home. He's coming home. Give me a break. This is this dude's third.
Kemba is washed up.
This is his third team in this calendar year. Celtics, Thunder, now the Knicks. That tells you all you need to know about Kemba Walker. Evan Fournier, 4 years, $78 million. He'll probably single-handedly lead France to the gold medal win on Friday night. But man, Celtics fans hated him, and you're giving that dude $20 million a year. I mean,
I love how Knicks fans on Twitter are celebrating the Kemba Fournier backcourt. Like we didn't just see those two get absolutely torched by Brooklyn in the playoffs. They just recreated the Boston backcourt that couldn't slow down the Nets at all. And the Knicks are like, yeah, we got this. And Randall, I'm so hesitant to give guys big money after one legitimate season of production. You do it twice, okay. I can see it being consistent. But in the regular season, Frank, we've seen time and time again, these guys can put up big numbers while there's no defense. And the defense in the playoffs gets cranked up 10 notches, and then it's a struggle city. And like you said, Randall was a 0. That might be giving him too much credit. He was non-existent in that playoff series against the Hawks. The Knicks were the higher seed. They had home court advantage. What was it, a 4-1, a gentleman's sweep? Was
4-1.
it? I mean, yeah, I mean.
And the Knicks celebrated like they won the title after winning Game 2. They celebrated harder than the Bucks did after they won the title after the Knicks won Game 2 of their first round series.
Yes. And the thing with Randall, too, he was under contract this year, which goes right back to my point of show me it twice and then I'll pay you. They didn't have to extend him now. Like they could have waited. He pulled up these numbers halfway through the season. All right, give him the extension. But I think it was too early and too much money for a guy who, yeah, is good, undeniably a good basketball player, but you're paying almost $30 million a year to a guy who you're not sure could be the best player on a team that gets past the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what they're doing. They also re-signed Derrick Rose, gave Nerlens Noel $30 million, and re-signed Alec Burks. I mean, it's almost like I almost feel bad for that franchise because they all they want to do is be competitive and win, and their front office goes out there and puts this team together that like could be like a fun team, could be like a who knows, it might get like a 4 through 7 seed again, but by no means are they even remotely close to competing for an NBA championship. Last thing, so actually 2 more things. LeBron tweeted that he then deleted. I meant to bring this up with the Lakers things. Keep talking about my squad, our personal ages, the way he plays. He stays injured. We're past our time in this league, etc. Do me one favor, please. And I mean, please keep that same narrative energy when it begins. That's all I ask. And he deleted the tweet. Why do you think he deleted the tweet? What's wrong with him?
LeBron has tweets in the past that I think he says it and it's like, I don't want to stir the pot, without realizing the fact that once he tweets it, a bajillion people will see it, screenshot it, and it will live on in infamy forever. I have no problem with LeBron saying it, though. I really actually I respect him coming out there. I don't know what else he's supposed to say. Like,
don't say anything. Ignore social media. Be better.
Yeah, but hey, I see the hate. It's extra motivation. Like, I have no issue whatsoever with him tweeting that. I see people on your side saying just stay off social. No one stays off social media these days. You're not. LeBron is a promoter. Like, he's on there still promoting Space Jam, which I think we'll see this weekend, Frank. And we can have the review next week. I just think he's on and for him to say, hey, I see the disrespect. Like, duly noted. Like good for you. Like, I have no issue with that whatsoever. I wish more players would. And he wasn't like coming at anyone in particular. He's just saying, hey, I hear it. I see it. Keep that same energy up when we're good. And if anyone could back it up, like if you're going to say that, you have to back it up. If anyone has proven over the last 2 decades that they're capable of backing up, it's LeBron James. He's the second best basketball player to ever walk the earth. Like he is capable of making a statement like that and then playing to the level where, yeah, it will look foolish if the Lakers end up with a top 2 seed and are once again one of the favorites to win the NBA Finals.
So last thing before we go, USA misses the chance to face Luka Doncic in the finals of the gold medal game. They lost to France by 1 point. So it's now USA against France. Mike, are you in? How much do you care? Do you have any crap about USA basketball?
So the one good thing about being in Hawaii was the time is much closer to Tokyo time. So like I was able to actually watch 2 of the games while I was over there. And yeah, it's fun watching guys who you would never see play together. So do I care? I don't really care. Do I enjoy it? Yes, I enjoy it.
I find it so weird. It feels nothing like an NBA game.
The
Zero.
rules legitimately are different. The rules are legitimately different.
But there's so much less like half court setup. It's just like rebound, go, like shoot. And it seems like way more like up tempo, fast paced. It's the announcers are terrible. I'm so used to like on a national telecast like a Breen or Ian Eagle or Marv Albert or Kevin Harlan, but I don't even know who these. I mean, Vince Carter's on the broadcast. He needs a lot of seasoning. I find it a very unenjoyable broadcast. There's not a lot of excitement, not a lot of energy. But I don't know. It's just been really weird. When I watch it, I'm just like, what am I watching? It's bizarre. I find it very bizarre.
Will you watch the gold medal game?
Oh yeah, I'm covering it tomorrow night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. Let's go, USA against France. Every time Kevin Durant falls, my heart drops.
That does terrify me too. It absolutely terrifies me too. Do you find it weird that like Team USA is going such weird lineups and it's guys who you wouldn't expect on paper to be kind of in that moment are the guys that they're leaning on most?
Well, I mean, it's Drew Holiday, Booker, and Durant.
Yeah, well, you look at that roster, Drew Holiday's not a guy that pops out as someone.
Yeah, but who else do they have to play point guard?
Well, Dame Lillard.
Well, it's weird. That's the one thing that Simmons brought up is that for whatever reason, international basketball doesn't seem to suit Damian Lillard. He has not. I mean, you watch this tournament, you're like, oh, who are the best players in Team USA? Durant won. Lillard would be second, but he's averaging like 10 points a game. He's doing essentially nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you explain it? This dude that in the NBA averages like 30 a game is like the heart and soul of this team that like has made the Western Conference Finals a couple times in the past like 3 or 4 years, and he gets to the Olympics and it's basically a dude that you can't even trust. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get how like Evan Fournier drops like 40 against the U.S. and he'll never score 40 in a single game for the Knicks this year. Like I don't know. It's so weird. I don't know. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, the only thing I think with Lillard and point guards in particular in international play is because the floor is so congested, it's such a smaller court, smaller three-point line, that playmaking is almost a necessity, not a secondary skill. So scoring point guards just don't thrive as well as maybe they have in the past. And it's just different. And I don't know exactly why Lillard can't figure it out and what the difference is, but it is a noticeable difference because, like you said, he's a top 10, top 11 guy in the league, undeniably in NBA rules. And in FIBA play, he's not a top 10 guy, and there's a lot worse players in FIBA than there are in the Olympics than there are in the NBA. So he's got to figure it out. I also wouldn't pass him, though, to put up 25 against France and somehow find a way to redeem himself because every time you seem to count out Dame Lillard, he comes back stronger than ever before. So
the line is out for the game against France. What do you think it is?
U.S. by 6.5.
6.5?
Yeah.
No, it's 12.5.
Oy.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's weird. This team, they fell behind for 15 points. They were down 15 in the second quarter. I was like, holy crap, they're going to lose. They are going to lose to Patty Mills. And they ended up running amok and taking like a 30-point lead at one point in like the fourth quarter before only winning by 19. But, man, 12.5 points Friday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. I will be there. Let's go. Team USA can win the gold medal. Kevin Durant, greatest player of all time. Let's go. That'll do it for the Lucas and Lucas podcast. See everyone next week. Let's go Nets. Win an NBA title.